All right, welcome back to Theater Thursday with Hannah and ChuBs. Today we're going back to 2015, talking about the movie The Witch. Now, I just saw this recently, and there was a lot of hype behind this movie when it came out. Um, you'll see how we felt compared to that, when we get to our overall opinion. But first, this was directed by Robert Eggers. It stars Anya Taylor-Joy from Split and Glass and the upcoming New Mutants. She played Thomason in the movie. Ralph Ineson, who played William in the movie, who was in such movies as Guardians of the Galaxy and Harry Potter and The Deadly Hallows Part 2. Um, Katie Dickey, who played Catherine, she was in Prometheus and The Last Jedi. She did not have a large part in The Last Jedi, because I went back and looked, and she was like just one of the Imperials on the bad ship, put it that way. And Harvey Scribshaw was Caleb, and he he was the young brother. He did Oranges and Sunshine and The Devil Outside, which are kind of indie films, big budget indie films. They're not like, but I had never heard of them until I looked it up. But I'll say off the bat, I think he did the best job at what he had to do, because they did have two younger actors and actresses, the young twins. They and kids actors have come a long way, but I think the younger brother did the best job. But anyway, just to give the quickest lowdown, this is takes place in the 1630s in and around New England, and the family has to move on almost on their own volition, because of, let's just say, church reasons, and they start their own farm. And Anya Taylor Joy's character is watching her baby brother, an infant, and she's doing peekaboo, and within the 2 seconds of doing that, the baby disappears. And throughout the movie, you get a buildup of there's a legend of a witch that lives in the forest. The two twin siblings I was talking about mentioned, one says, "I've seen the witch, ha ha ha." And then
Mhm.
Anya Taylor Joy's character gets mad at the girl sibling and says, "Well, I'm the witch, and I'll blah blah blah," and just to scare her. But the problem is, and what you come to find out, spoilers as always, they have a black goat in the family. And in the end, you find out the black goat is what the witch is using to get to the family. While hunting, the little brother runs into the witch herself. Now, in the IMDb, there's an old witch and a young witch.
Mhm.
And but the odd part to me is at the end there's a whole coven, and they only mention one till the end, and then there's 10. But the family suspects Anya Taylor Joy's character of being the witch because her brother, who runs into the witch, comes back pretty much possessed. He chokes up like a ball of something. I couldn't even make
Thought it
out
was
what
like
it was.
fruit or something, like moldy fruit.
Yeah, it was really weird. But then he starts talking to Jesus, and then he dies. And then the mother wakes up in the middle of the night and sees the son and the baby. And then when the other kids see her, she's, instead of breastfeeding the baby, it's a crow. And
Mhm.
now the whole movie is gray, and I mean that as in the sky is gray, the color's gray, the woods don't have, like, the trees don't even look green. And I guess that's supposed to go with the downfall of the family. Like, stuff never, it keeps getting worse. And then when the son dies, the little kids start getting sick almost the same way the son does before he dies. Then
Mhm.
they let the cat out the bag that, hey, my sister said she's the witch, blah. And then the dad goes nuts, and nobody trusts her. The mom doesn't trust her. Then they start saying that the black goat is talking to them. And these are the two little kids. So eventually the goat kills the dad, and then the mom goes nuts and starts trying to strangle Anya Taylor Joy, and she has to kill her with a looks like a little
Was
shovel
the
or
mom not a witch too?
no, they didn't
Or
like.
what was the deal with her? Why like she was
I
like
think she just went
scary.
nuts.
She got scary.
Well, I think she just went nuts because
And she's like, ha
after
ha ha! She had the crow. Like, that was kind of
right,
scary.
well, after the baby is missing, they mentioned that like she cries herself to sleep every night for like months, and then as more stuff happening, it just pops up
Well,
that
I mean,
one
I guess
scene.
I can
She gets
understand that, if her baby
well,
goes
yeah,
missing.
right, but it's just that one scene. She gets out of bed, thinks she sees her son and the baby, and she starts to breastfeed. And then when Anya Taylor Joy looks, it's a crow. And then
Yeah.
she's just like she never brings it up again. There's a little red on her nightgown where her breasts are, but
Hmm.
to me, she just goes crazy because of the whole situation, and then tries to strangle her child to death. So, but in the very end, and I want to bring this up
What
after she
happened to
killed
the little kids though? It seemed like they just did they like die or something?
the the father locks Anya Taylor Joy and the two twins in the barn at the very heat top of everything. Then the morning the goat kills him, Anya Taylor Joy is laying on the ground. There's two dead white goats, and he
Mhm.
says to her, "Where's your brother and sister?" And when they were in the barn the night before, they played footsteps on the roof. So I assume the witches took them
Oh,
because
probably.
they made. And she says somebody was on the roof last night. It wasn't me because the whole thing is like they just keep thinking it's her. But yeah, after
Well, don't like the old witches like. I think were they trying to say like they take children to be youthful or something? Isn't that like kind of an old tale or something? Or
it's
maybe the young witch
that
was supposed to be the old witch or something, or
yeah, that's
different
it is
name.
part
Like,
of a lot of the tales for witches. But when the young boy sees the witch in young form, she makes out with him, and her
yeah,
arm is like an old lady.
that was kind of
So,
weird. That's like a 30-year-old making out with like a
well,
kid.
yeah. But I think that's the transfer of the youth, and that's what
Yeah.
killed him. Like he ran out of his youth. But
I guess she took advantage of him because he was kind of like a little pervert like throughout the whole movie.
I I'm glad you brought that up. I almost forgot. I did not like the fact that he kept looking down his sister's shirt.
I thought that was really gross too.
It added nothing to the movie. Like
I really,
if
yeah, I didn't, I hated that.
you,
And then
it's
he's
one of
like, I'm
those.
a sinner and stuff. It was really gross.
Yeah, like but you could. That's one of those things in movies you could take out, and it adds or subtracts nothing to the movie.
I don't
Like
know why they did that.
like if she would have tricked him with her body later, sure, but no, he just looks down her shirt and he whatever. Okay, but
But that's his
when
sister. It's so gross.
yeah, it's overall gross. But I literally said out loud, like after Anya Taylor Joy kills her mom to save her own life, she goes inside and changes her clothes. I literally said out loud, "Well, you might as well just become a witch at this point." So what does she do? She walks outside, goes into the forest. Well, actually, she goes into the barn again, and you hear a voice saying, "I can help you. You just
And
got
the
to
goat,
sign."
yeah.
It's either the goat or the witch
The goat
speaking to the
put his
goat.
like little like hoof on her shoulder. Remember?
Well, that's right, yeah. And then she goes in the woods, sees the whole coven of like six or
So
seven
much
witches,
naked people in this movie, man.
and they were naked. And then they float to the top of trees. Movie ends. But I literally said, "You might as well become a witch," and she sure enough does. Because at that
Mhm.
point, you ain't got nothing left. Your whole family's dead. You know.
There was
So,
a witch in the beginning of the movie. She reminded me of you remember the lady in The Shining, the one that
mm-hmm.
got like you remember not whenever she looked good, but like when she turned all scary in the bathtub.
Oh
I
yeah.
just thought it reminded me of that. It took me back to that scene.
Now
You know,
there was a
old
cool
witch.
trivia note on IMDb. They have scenes throughout the movie where they're trying to grow corn, and you see
Mhm.
they handle corn, or there's corn hanging on the wall drying. They added I'll make sure I wrote it's called ergot fungus, which is a theory of how the witch trials went down in real life, that that fungus makes you hallucinate.
Yeah,
So they added that in to suggest that maybe the whole thing was these people were just poisoned with a hallucinogenic fungus. I think that's a better answer than the goat people, like the witches through goats.
probably. Yeah, because I mean
But
that has a
they,
little truth to it, So.
yeah, now that's just one theory, but they
Hmm.
added that in. This did happen during that time. They were dressed like I don't want to say I say Protestants. I guess that'd be right.
And the 1800s clothes.
Where you couldn't show your ankle as a woman, that's for sure. Yeah.
Well,
So,
yeah, that's like
but uh,
skanky.
it's not. They're not pilgrims anymore. But they almost dress that way. But it's the 1630s, so I say Protestant. Most people might
Hmm.
get that, but pilgrims, if you will. But this is around that time, right before I think the Salem witch trial. So that's what the beginning I think was trying to established because the father is talking to the council and they're just talking about, well, we came over here from England so we could practice religion our way. And they don't agree with him and he has to leave. But they don't say, like, your family's accused or anything. That's the other thing. This whole movie, nothing's clear. Like, they do give you some answers, but most of the movie, you're like, okay, so is this what's happening?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I was confused.
Right, and it's seriously slow. And I get you want to build tension in this type of movie. I get that, and it it was cool to to go in that way, but it took too long to get where they were going, and they threw too many things at you. Like when the dad and the son are hunting, they come across this rabbit, and this rabbit appears all over the place. But the dad goes to shoot the rabbit, and the gun backfires in his face. So I'm like, oh, the witches are using animals like you hear about, and it's unlucky ish, and that never comes up again. You see the rabbit like one more time, and then the kids are playing with the black goat, and then the black goat's talking. Like there's nothing steady, there's nothing clear, but
Hmm.
I think they had a great. It probably was a great script, and it was probably like they said on storyboard. Oh, we could do this and then this. Now I give them credit for it. It was filmed beautifully. Like the camera work was great. The acting was great because you had three or four young children, and like I said, the little boy he couldn't have been more than 10, 12 at the most, and he did a phenomenal job. And they also got some good animal work, and I give them that. But they did kill a dog, and that's a no-no. We don't do that. Poor dog did nothing. And then the goats, and anybody could tell you who knows me. I always said if I get farm or land, I want a goat or two. I think they're cool. But the goat's the evil one. But I think the witches were working through the goats or the
Hmm.
one goat. So, because then she tries to milk one of the white goats and blood comes out, So you get
Hmm.
these scary scenes, but there's too much build up for little bits here and there. Like that,
I feel like it was a movie that was like an hour and 30, right? And it felt
yeah.
like it was like 2.5 hours long. It felt way longer than it was because of like such the slow pace that you're talking about.
When I
Um,
got, when there was 30 minutes left, I literally was like, man, have I been here for 2 hours? I
like
thought that.
that's what happened to me. It was like 25 minutes left. I'm like, oh god, dude.
It took too long for the payoff. And then the payoff may like you have to piece it together yourself, so it did
Well,
make too much sense.
it's like the dad just comes out and he's dead, and this is like it is kind of that was like pretty, like a quick kind of death or something. I don't know for all
The
that,
the the goat rammed the dad in the stomach.
Yeah.
Then he grabs an axe because he knows it's going to happen again. Then he drops the axe, and it happens. Like those are the
Hmm.
little things. Like what are you going for? Like, and the footsteps of something over the barn show that he already showed a witch making out with a child. You can show the witch stealing the other two kids, but it's
Yeah. Well, there's too much
implied.
inappropriate stuff with the little boy, and like that kind of made me
Yeah,
uncomfortable. I guess I don't like seeing children have to be sexualized like that. It made me very uncomfortable. Um, but I don't know. You
right.
said that the girl might as well become a witch. I was thinking like I would be like I'm getting the the freak out of here, dude. Like, I don't think I would join the witches. I would be trying to find like a way out of there.
Well, in that day and age, though, where are you going to go and what you going to do? You know, they lost their horse, they lost
Well, I
everything.
ain't gonna become no devil worshiper just because I'm stuck out in the woods with them.
Well, let's be straight. Not Wiccans are not devil worshippers, but
Well, in this
that's not what
they seemed about like that type of witch. It's a
I was.
movie star.
Yeah,
What do you call a movie star? Or like in movies, the witches are satanic, kind of.
well, I think it depends on the movie. Like The Craft,
I think the goat was pretty much like the devil, dude. He was like representing
yeah,
Satan.
I got the Baphomet feel. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe that's what the goat
About
was
that,
supposed
yeah.
to be, and her like almost having this like they don't say sign your soul over to me. She says I can help you. Just write your name here. So
Yeah.
again, it's implying something, but it would have been better if the movie just straight said it. Like we if they said come to us and work for Satan, I would have accepted that more than just some women floating around in the trees.
Well, I think it was like the demons were like making them float and stuff. Like the devil was giving them powers. That's what that's how I like I guess perceived it. You know,
Well,
especially with the little goat thing.
the goat makes sense. And I don't know, one of the women in the woods actually had a stick between her legs, and she looked like a Halloween witch, I'll say. Like,
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like a typical Halloween witch is like satanic, right? Or isn't
no,
that like
no, they
the
just do
real?
spells.
Yeah, but they asked the demons to give them powers and stuff, right?
No, I have,
Well,
uh,
I don't know. That's
I,
not the thing.
I've had two Wicca friends, and no, they
Well,
use the
I like have Wiccan friends too, but we're talking about fucking like the creepy ass Halloween witches.
well, Halloween witch is kind of an amalgam of like because it basically the look is the Wicked Witch of the West, where like she was toil and trouble. Like I'm gonna put Eye of Newt in here, but she didn't worship anything. She
Well,
just
no,
had magical
the
powers.
first like witch or whatever, um, looked like straight up like demon or something in the beginning. Like she had like
Oh
that
no, I'm
typical like
talking
creepy witch look.
right. I'm talking about the Halloween witch image that we see, like green face with a nose and a wart and a hat.
But that's like
Like
it's like a monster, right?
no, they're just ugly because
Well, why they
throughout
green?
that's Hollywood did that. The Wicked Witch of the West. Like that was cemented that look, a black cloak, riding a broom, and
Mm-hmm.
then like because if you look back and people can look this up, like the Druids and where we get like Samhain, the whole like actual Halloween comes from. Um, Witches at that time were just like old ladies who couldn't bear children, and the town folk deemed them creepy, and they used like naturalistic ways to heal things, and it
Mm-hmm.
blew out of control. But to me, this movie skews that line where it's like it could be an old woman living out in the woods. Oh no, they're a goat person, and
But
it's
no,
or you know
there really is like people that that are into the cult that harm people and stuff though.
yeah, but in Wicca it comes back tenfold on you, so they try not to hurt people.
Well, what do they call that's like the black magic? That's real.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've never seen it actually work. They say it works, but
Well,
I
I
don't.
don't mess around with the black magic,
Well,
so I don't know nothing about it.
no, but I can tell you. And one day we'll have to talk about The Craft. Remember that movie? The good one.
Oh God, yeah, I hate that.
Never can. Well, the girl Veruca Salt, whatever her name is, the head of the coven in that movie with the big mouth.
Mhm.
Um, when they did the beach scenes in that movie, a friend of hers, I believe it was a real Wicca person, was brought in to show him how to do the rituals right. And on set, the camera people and the producers and everybody said those scenes, nothing went right every time they tried to do it. It was really strange, but nobody
Mhm.
got hurt.
Oh,
But
she actually did magic in real life, and like messed
well,
with her.
yeah,
Like,
I'm saying
yeah,
she called one of her friends who knew a little bit better than her how to do the actual rituals. But those rituals, like they said, she did an interview where in the movies they're like in the craft, she's like they pray to the gods of the north, south, east, and west, and to try and do this and that. But the movie takes it too far where they're like they can change their hair color and like yeah, that would be black magic. But and I
but
mean, I
you said she really did magic, and a mirror like broke on her face and shit. Like it was just sitting there, it's
mm,
like she's like, I'm not
she
gonna mess with this stuff no more. Like
she
she could
said
have.
that, but
Yeah, she said that some stuff happened. I don't know, but I'm just telling you, like she had
no,
a
that's what
bad
I'm
experience
saying.
with it.
People can
So
say a lot. I will tell you this. um, a friend of mine in my group in high school, right after Charm came out, and that was big, she
hmm
bought a book based off of what you might see in that show, like the way they do things. And it
hmm
had a thing that said, in 6 months, you can make $100 bill appear out of nothing or whatever.
hmm
And that girl tried for about 10 years and nothing ever happened. So take it as you want. Like,
Well, I mean, I don't
yeah,
believe in witchcraft. I don't do it, but I'm just saying, like
well,
I know that people like that do get heavily into it. Like they have some pretty bad experiences, but that's not something I'm into.
well, I think with anything, as always, like too much excess is a bad thing. And no, nobody should go blind into something like that. Do your research. But as far as this movie goes,
Yeah.
they call it The Witch. There's obviously more than one. They don't even specify too much, like what the witch is all about or why the witch is doing such things. Like, except for maybe the youth thing, I get that. Like I said, you can see her hand is old, but she looks young.
hmm
Fine, but they don't make that clear. Like they show a scene after the baby's taken where they have the naked baby and then naked people, and then the naked people who are young looking, they don't show faces, are bathing in what looks like blood, and then it ends. That scene ends. So you're
Well,
like,
that's
well,
like a Snow White type of thing. Remember,
right, but
there was even like an apple and stuff in this movie, so they
right.
you know.
My thing is though, they could have clarified a couple things, like somehow say we're taking these kids to regain our youth, but the end is just six women dancing around a fire that float to the top of trees. And so you're like, okay, they do have magic powers. That's fine. But they don't make it clear if they got the power, they get their where they get their powers from. Like she says, you can sign your name in this book and I'll help you. Show the book. Show us what you're talking about. Like make one thing clear. Like they didn't
Yeah.
give a demon name. They didn't. So that's my gripes with it. It looked
hmm
great. They did a good job filming it and casting it, and but the story got dragged on too long and got too out of hand too quick. So
Yeah, and like I said, like uh, it's like personal preference. I just can't stand like that way that they talked in the movie. It's too hard for me to follow. I get bored when people
yeah,
talk like that, like thee, thou, like um. I guess that was like the time, but I feel like they don't necessarily have to talk like that just because it's a movie at that time period. They can talk like regular.
yeah. No, for anybody who's a fan of Thor, even in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, like in the comics, it got really hard for them to write everything like "come at thee thou," and like "thou cometh I," and people didn't want to read that. So then over
Mhm.
time, Thor's speech changed. So luckily, they didn't have too much talking in the movie. Like you know, the conversations didn't last too long. Let me put it that way.
It's hard
Like,
for me to follow. You
yeah,
know, that's like one
I
of the problems I have with like the Bible. Sometimes is like I can't follow, so I'm like
right, yeah.
I don't know.
No, I couldn't understand some of the words. Like because they
And
were
we don't
speaking that
talk like
way.
that no more. That's not the
But
way people speak.
yeah,
But
that's
that's
what
just
we.
a personal thing, like a personal preference that I really dislike.
Yeah, it, so the period piece in and of itself, when it comes to movies, that's where you got to go. Okay, can I sit through this? Like I can watch a subtitle movie and enjoy it.
Hmm.
Most of my friends could not. Right now, Mrs. M, no,
Subtitles ain't bad, but yeah, just it's got to be
that,
normal, you know.
but that's the preference. Like, because
Yeah.
it's bad sometimes. Like if you watch a kung fu movie to watch the action and read what they say, that's one thing. If it's a talking movie, it's not bad because you don't have to pay attention up and down real quick. But same thing with
Well,
this movie, the
it's like my
talking.
mom watches a lot of British TV,
Hmm.
like that's her like favorite stuff. And sometimes I'm like, dude, I can't follow this, because it'll be like slow. And she'll watch like these like British like detective shows and it'll be like, Mr. Brown was over here, and it just goes on for so long. I'm like, dude, just like
I
come on,
I
come
watch
on.
I watch some of the British commentary YouTubers to try and keep up what's going on in the world.
Hmm.
And they're like, "Oh, wait, hey," and it's like they'll just go off, and I'm like, "What are you talking? What?" So I get that, but that's
Yeah,
that,
I don't necessarily. I love like Little Britain and stuff. I like a lot of British shows, but
yeah.
sometimes they're just too slow paced for me. And then like you're saying, you can't understand it sometimes because we didn't grow up around that. Like we're Southerners, so we're like, what, what are you
Hey,
trying to say?
the we were talking about in our alien show,
Hmm.
Carrie Henn, who played Newt. She's American, but she has
Hmm.
a British accent in the movie because she grew up there, and it catches on when you live there.
That's what happened to Mel Gibson. He moved to Australia when he's like what 15, and then he got the
Yeah.
accent. You know.
Unlike Madonna, who kind of faked that, but that's all
Oh
right.
yeah, Tina Turner. Like she lived in England for a couple years, and
Mm-hmm.
she started talking like that. Like it just
Yeah.
happens, I guess. Um, because
Or
when I moved to the country, I started sounding more country than when I hang out in the city. I start talk like my dialect changes a little bit depending on who I'm around all the time.
I tell the story all the time. When Katrina happened and we left from New Orleans to Georgia, every time we stopped, people could tell off the bat we were from here,
Hmm.
and they're like, "Oh, we could tell by your accent." And they would have a thick accent, and we're like, "Oh, we don't have an accent." "Oh, yeah, you do. You're from New Orleans." And so every state's different, unless it's a really mixed place like Florida where there's just so many people. But yeah, this movie, it's a hard one to get through. I will say that. But let me go ahead and I'm gonna rate this movie a 6.5. And
That's what
I
I was gonna give it.
well, yeah, I mean, like it has a little
There's
enough.
some creepy bits in it, I guess.
It's creepy. It does suspense really well, but yeah, you could have taken out 20 minutes of this and it would have been a lot more compact and better. You could have explained a couple things better and it would have been great. Or, yeah, just, I mean, those, we have the same gripes.
Well, can I
And,
say like the movie made me uncomfortable a lot too? Like I
well,
think
no,
maybe is that what they were going for? Like I
I
just felt
think
very
that's what they were going for.
uncomfortable. Um,
Well, again, like the brother looking down the sister's shirt, like you didn't need it.
uneasy,
It didn't add
uncomfortable.
anything. And if you want to make us uncomfortable, fine, but don't do it that way. They already had a
Yeah,
baby stolen. That's uncomfortable enough.
yeah, that was already. I was like, dude, no,
That's
not the baby.
that's one of the saddest things. So it's like, oh wow. But yeah, they didn't have to add stuff like that. So those are the things you could have cut out and
When
gotten
they,
away
I
with
guess
it.
it's like when you were talking about dogs and children. It's like those are. It's always too hard, to watch sometimes. Like seeing things happen to animals and kids.
In the
You
horror
know.
community, it's literally a no-no. They say you can kill as many humans as you want, but you never killed the dog.
No, yeah, I don't like the dog,
We,
but I don't like. I mean, I don't like when they kill the dog, but I also don't like when they take babies or like little kids get
well,
hurt. Like that always makes me
yeah.
uncomfortable too. I'm like,
Well,
you know, I
in,
think that's
in
why a lot of horror movies don't have children in them, huh? It's because like all these killers and stuff in these horror movies, they would kill anybody. So it makes people too upset that they probably don't put a lot of kids in them because
there are
they get
there's a
slaughtered too.
well, it depends. Like I think it's Friday the 13th part 7.
Yeah.
uh they have kids in one of the only movies there's actually kids there, and Jason looks at one of the little girls and then walks off. Halloween 2018, Michael passes up a baby and another kid, but
Hmm.
then kills one in the beginning of the movie. So they usually stay away from it, but not always. And like
Well, why did
you,
he choose to kill that baby and not the other? He's weird.
they never explained it. Like Freddy Krueger, they used to just say he was a child murderer. Then they made him a pedophile.
Yeah,
So, but saying he's
that's
a
not
child
cool.
murderer from the first movie, you're okay with it because that's his thing. But
I
then,
don't think they should do that to Freddy. You know,
no, nobody
because
liked
like
that.
no, because like in a way, even though like Freddy's a psycho, like he in the '80s movies he's likable, he's funny. You know, like people love him. But turn him to like a pedo, like it's like, yeah, that's
Well,
not cool.
it's the same thing with Rob Zombie's Halloween. Like, we didn't need his backstory, especially he came from a horrible redneck family.
Hmm.
In the very first movie in '78, he was in a regular middle class family, and he just went nuts, and they never explain why. By the way, I'm reading the novel of the first movie, and
Hmm.
they go into a lot more detail about like I say about him, but like it's stretched out about the night he killed his sister, and they even go back to Celtic times and imply like his family was cursed. Anyway, but
Well,
no,
then you talked about how like when they talk about childhoods and stuff, like you don't have to give them a bad childhood. It's like they're already like crazy. It's like sometimes people just are like that, like have mental problems. You don't have to have a bad childhood to like kill people.
yeah,
You
when
know.
in Rob Zombie's Halloween, that killed it for most people I ever hear talk about. It's like, well, that gives him a reason, and that
Yeah, like
so yeah, he'll be messed up, but
it's more scary if it's like he just unlike Ted Bundy, like he was like he had a great childhood, he had a great life. He's
yeah,
just a lunatic, you know. That's what made.
well,
But I mean, he's a real person. But I'm just saying, like that's what happens sometimes. People are just like crazy without having
mm,
to have a bad upbringing.
and even there's one of the scariest stories about Ted Bundy to me was a woman he worked with
Hmm.
who she
The
came out.
suicide crisis.
What's that?
Was it at a suicide crisis or someplace, right?
Yeah,
Where they.
at the and she said he walked her to her car every night. He never raised his voice. He never cursed in front of her. He never
Hmm.
threatened her.
She
But
thought he was a great guy, I guess.
he obviously did horrible things. But that's the thing. Like sometimes it's like, yeah, they're crazy, but they're not completely crazy, and that's scarier.
Yeah, and
Like,
she had a daughter that looked like one of the type of girls he would go for, like to murder. So she's like, wow, like the victims look like my daughter or something. It's like he was around my daughter all the time, you know.
right? And what's crazier? Like you got crazy people, but then you have like the women who want to marry them when they're in jail and
Mm.
stuff. Like that's even crazier to me. So,
Yeah,
but
because like you
anyway,
guys don't see the good side of them. It's like okay, I'm not going to like
I think they showed what side they got.
like freaking murdering people.
But to bring it back and close this up, we reviewed The Witch from
Hmm.
2015. I saw it for the first time recently. Uh, I gave it a 6.5. I wasn't too impressed. It has some suspense. It dragged on too long. It was very vague at times. It threw in a lot of stuff it didn't need to, but you know, and there's better witch movies out there,
I
which
think this
we'll
movie
get
is
to.
overrated though.
Yeah, it sounded great when I heard about it when it first came out, and I was
You
like,
watch
cool, but
reviews and people are like, "Oh, it's so good."
yeah, and watching it now, I was like, okay, like I don't see what everybody was going gaga about, but
Yeah, I guess that's something that we're like kind of telling people here is you kind of have to watch movies for yourself. But we'll give you guys our opinions and then tell you guys the breakdown on the movies. But I mean, give it a watch for yourselves, guys. But
yeah,
I
what
yeah.
I do in this show is the same that I do with me is I can watch somebody review a movie, I can watch highlights of a movie, but I'll still go watch the movie no matter even if it's spoiled for me and see it for myself. And that's what we try and do is bring you a little bit of it, what we think of it, because everybody is going to have a different opinion.
Yeah,
But
at the end of the day, you gotta go to your own
yeah,
conclusions.
that's why I always say to the audience, watch it for yourself and come back and tell us what you think and let us know, and then suggest something by what you hear us talk about, because we'll watch almost anything.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
and we definitely have a lot more planned, and you never know what you're going to get. We never want to spoil what's coming, but
Mhm.
today, like, this would be another on the lower totem of movies, like The
Mhm.
Forest, not ranking too
Yeah.
high, didn't impress too much, but I wanted to see it because I had heard about it, and so now you know. But
Mhm.
so there you go. There's another Theater Thursday in the bag, and we love to bring the entertainment to you. So she's Hannah, and I'm Chubbs, and definitely come back for more. Over and out.
Right.